Senior Citizen now convenes this public hearing. Public hearing notices were provided to the media. First notice on Monday, April 11th, 2016. Second notice on April 25th, 2016. For the record, today is April 27, 2016. The time now is 5:35 p.m. The committee will hear and accept testimonies on Bill 184-33, which is relative to providing for an incentive pay for environmental public health officers within the Division of Environmental Health of the Department of Public Health and Social Services who obtain and maintain one or more professional certification in basic sciences as designated and meeting the recommended standard established by the National Environmental Health Association. I'd like to recognize my colleague, Chairman of the Committee on Rules, Senator Roy Respicio. Thank you very much, Senator, for being here. Also want to thank all of you again for being here. As you know, the committee held an informational hearing on April 18th on Bill 184. And I want you to know, and the public to know, that all the testimonies that were provided at that hearing will be appended to this bill and this committee report when we do report it out. So all your testimonies, both oral and written, that were provided are intact and will be part of this record. Okay? I know we have the administrator of the Division of Environmental Health here, and so if you want to add to any of your comments from the previous hearing, we'll make sure that we include that. Okay? So again, Bill 184 is really moving forward an existing mandate. In 2010, I believe it was Public Law 30-138, the legislature moved to modernize and revitalize the certain positions at the environmental health, and so there was a lot of obstacles in getting that forward, but this bill here takes it to the finish line and ensures that it's fully implemented a law that was already passed previously, right? And so we have that. We'll go ahead and recognize you, Tom, if you have any additional testimonies.
Sure. First of all, thank you, Senator Rodriguez, Chairman, also Senator Respicio. I'd like to thank the legislature for holding this public hearing on Bill 184 and the Committee on Health, Economic Development, Homeland Security, and Senior Citizens for leading that effort. And we thank you, Chairman, for introducing Bill 184. In April 18th, when we had the information hearing, we did submit a written statement of support for Bill 184. And we resubmitting the same document, but dated for this hearing and also identified as public hearing. Rather than reading the entire document once again, I'd like to kind of summarize. And funny thing is, when I summarized, it was just as long, so I apologize in advance. So I'll get straight to the point. Department of Public Health, we support Bill 184. By establishing a definition for basic sciences for the education and qualification of an environmental public health officer, otherwise known as the EPHO. It will assist the Department of Administration to better identify qualifying science courses when reviewing applications, and thus this will ensure that individuals applying for the position of an EPHO possesses the education sought by the Division of Environmental Health, which is similar to the qualifications recommended by National Environmental Health Association and supported by the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Furthermore, possessing the basic sciences as defined in Bill 184 will enable the applicant to be better prepared in passing the exams for certification that the Division of Environmental Health is already requiring of individuals holding these positions. And speaking of certifications, please note that the department had already implemented a directive in 2013 where all environmental health officers of DEH are required to obtain 4 different certifications. These 4 certifications are listed as necessary qualifications in the job specifications of the EPHO 1 through supervisor, which state that these certifications may be required as a prerequisite for recruitment. Because the division sees value and importance of these certifications for the newly created positions, the department had opted to require these 4 certifications, but to obtain within 1 year of employment. For the EPHO administrator and chief EPHO, they are required to obtain the Registered Environmental Health Specialist certification or the Registered Sanitarian certificate, which are the highest credentials offered by the National Environmental Health Association for the field of environmental health. Therefore, the department has already instituted professional certification requirements as it was intended in Public Law 30-138, which created these new positions, and is now simply a matter of adding the actual language to the law to implement incentive pay. The establishment of these positions and the accompanying certification have led employees to unfortunately resign from the environmental health. Existing personnel who fail to achieve their required certification may end up making the same decision. While this is unfortunately the downside of the division's drive to employ only the best and most capable personnel, we believe in the long run that this can only improve the division and its mission to provide its many environmental health services to the people of Guam. In addition to recruiting and retaining exemplary employees, the incentive pay will encourage them to pursue the highest professional credential in the field, which is, as I mentioned, the Registered Environmental Health Specialist credential or the Registered Sanitarian. Those who have already achieved such certification will still need to obtain the other 4 certificates to qualify. As I had commented previously in the last hearing, I suspect some in the legislature and even the public may have difficulties in supporting this bill in light of the recent controversy about government salary increases and its finances. But we ask the following points to be considered once again. Number 1, incentive pay is not a new pay plan or an automatic salary increase for the affected employees. It is a voluntary program. It is up to the individual to decide whether to take advantage of the program to better him or herself by achieving all 5 certifications. Some may not wish or even successfully obtain these certifications. Public Health is already requiring all environmental health officers to possess 1 or 4 of the certifications based on their position listed in their job specifications, which undoubtedly have had adverse impacts on retention and create additional stress and obligation to already overtasked personnel. However, the adoption of the incentive pay program should make these mandatory certifications much more acceptable to them, since it would provide them a motivation to pursue all 5 certificates. The division will also benefit from their 5 certifications, as it would demonstrate to us that they possess the knowledge required and expected of them to fulfill their duties and responsibilities. 3, to obtain the incentive, the EPHO must seek and obtain continuing education credits and pay the required renewal fees, which will still be out-of-pocket costs for them. 4, the duties and responsibility of an environmental public health officer exceed beyond those of environmental health work. They include law enforcement activities, such as through the investigations of pharmaceutical control diversion cases, and will now be adding laboratory operation with the establishment of our food lab and mosquito lab. This is all without any additional compensation. Because upward mobility in environmental health is greatly limited, the incentive pay may be the only option available to most for any pay increase outside their usual annual increments. At least with the incentive pay program, the pay increase is truly earned through merit. And finally, whether Bill 184-33 becomes law or not, it is the intent of Public Health to continue to require all the environmental public officers to obtain the several certifications listed, and will always seek to recruit those applicants who possess the appropriate education to succeed in Division of Environmental Health. Yet, the department hopes that the legislature and the public understands the benefits of passing Bill 184-33 and instituting the incentive program and adding a definition of basic sciences. With this passage, the public can expect more knowledgeable and thus more effective employees to serve the needs of the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tom, for that testimony. And before I get into some questions I have, again, I want to thank you and your staff, the hard-working, dedicated staff of DEH. We know the struggles you guys have faced over the years, right? And this initiative, which started in 2010, really is a path towards professionalizing and modernizing these positions. Even though I wasn't here at that time, it's something that I support. I believe the expanded duties and responsibilities that this places upon the positions here, needs to be these type of incentives need to be in place. So I support it, and that's why we're moving it forward. So in terms now of the funding source, even in the first law in 2010, the Environmental Health Fund was identified as a source of funding to be able to fund this program.
That's correct,
right?
sir.
And so that is still the funding that we are looking at now. I know there was concerns raised that there was no money to do this. You provided some testimony during the last hearing that from your knowledge and based on the AS400 account, at least from March, which is March of this year, that there is sufficient funding to be able to carry this forward. But if you can give the committee what it's going to take for those who have already obtained these certifications when the law was first passed in 2010.
Yes, thank you.
What impact?
Yes.
What impact would that have?
First, for clarification, the figure that I have provided during the April 18th hearing was actually specific to the DPHS Sanitary Inspection Revolving Fund, which is our second special funds of the division. The other is the Environmental Health Fund that you did mention. And as to answer your question, if we were to implement the incentive pay right now, at this moment, there'd be 2 employees that would be affected, and the difference in terms of the funding would be additional $45,000 for 3 employees. Now, if this was to be applied for everyone, everyone meaning all environmental health officers, full-time employees, excluding the vacant funded position, the additional cost will be $129,000 a year, at least for this fiscal year. If we were to implement it across the board for all the environmental health officers, assuming they qualify and get all the 5 certifications, including the vacant funded positions, that would equate to $153,000 a year. As I stated, we have a small division, so the financial impact, though significant for us, it's not into the hundreds of thousands. It's at most $150,000, at least for this fiscal year. If we were to apply it now, at this very moment, it will be $45,000 in additional cost.
Yeah, and it's generated. And the funding source that we've identified here is generated from a source of funding that clearly the law authorizes to be used to hire personnel for operations of the division, which is also including this incentive pay program.
Right. For the Environmental Health Fund that is available to the Division of Environmental Health for operations. As for DPHS Sanitary Inspection Revolving Fund, I know there is a language of the employees on other resources. As I mentioned, I am not a lawyer, so I'm not trying to interpret exactly what it means, but I believe it's applicable to this as well.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Senator Respicio?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Tom, welcome back.
Thank you. It's nice to be back.
No, I wanted to make sure I came to this public hearing to continue to assist Chairman Rodriguez in everything that he wants to do with his oversight responsibilities, but particularly to generate some clarification that when you were here for the informational hearing, the chairman was criticized that that hearing was illegal, and the staffer of another senator took a legal memorandum that the Legislature's Council presented to that office. And so when we had the Committee on Rules meeting, shortly thereafter, after I did the re-referral, because the informational hearing was very helpful for me to understand that because this bill would not have any funding from the general fund, that the funding will come from the Environmental Health Fund. Certainly Chairman Rodriguez still maintains or should have jurisdiction over that, over this issue because of his oversight over public health. Originally, the bill was referred to another committee because it stems from incentive pay and compensation packages, and so another committee has jurisdiction over that matter. So since that this bill wasn't moving in that committee, we can also look to other committees in the legislature that have similar jurisdictions, and so that's what I did as chairman on rules. And thankfully, when we had the rules meeting, my decision to re-refer this bill to Chairman Rodriguez was ratified. But also at that hearing, I asked Senator Tony Atta, asked if we could get some clarification from the Legislative Council, if in fact she put anything in writing relative to that informational hearing and whether that hearing was an illegal hearing. And the legal counsel said that she never said that, and she was given an opportunity to read her memorandum into the record. And nowhere in that letter did it state that the hearing that Senator Rodriguez wanted to have was an illegal hearing. So, Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to clarify that unfortunately, someone says something, and then that's exactly what the media picks up. And what we're dealing with is individuals who don't really care to be responsible about the information that they're bringing out. And with this particular issue, and on social media, there's been a lot of misinformation with respect to what this bill actually does. There's been some statements made on social media that this fund should be used to purchase equipment for the Environmental Health Division employees of the Department of Public Health and Social Services. And so, that kind of what we're dealing with is perception over reality 9 out of 10 times. But I'm here tonight to say that no matter what the perception is or the spin being done by some individuals relative to this issue, you have a chairman that's going to stay the course, and I'm going to stay the course with him, and that this this public hearing is a result of a re-referral that was made, and so certainly there might not be time in this session because we're getting ready to vote now, but I'm sure the chairman will put the committee report together and we can lobby the other senators to get this on the agenda. So I like what you said when you clarified that this is not a salary increase, that this is something that existed since 2010, and we have yet to implement it.
Thank you, Senator.
So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator, if I just may add one more thing. As I quickly scan through the Bill 184, I know it does identify the funding source. As I recall, it is the Environmental Health Fund, but also includes the Sanitary Inspection Revolving Fund, which we're grateful for. And because there is a significant chunk of money in the Sanitary Inspection Revolving Fund, so that is also another source of funding to make this happen. I'm confident the Environmental Health Fund alone is sufficient. However, like I said, at this moment, it's only $45,000 that we see of additional cost to implement, but that's based on current. There may be additional, maybe further down the month of this fiscal year. So I'll be grateful if that language is kept to include both Environmental Health Fund and the Sanitary Inspection Revolving Fund, and even possibly look at the language for the Sanitary Inspection Revolving Fund to ensure it truly can be applied for where intended. So that way it would be questioned by any other parties. I'll be grateful for that. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you very much, Tom, for that clarification. Also, want to thank our Committee on Rules Chairman for really facilitating this process forward. Because it's, we need to address it here because some of you that I spoke to, some of you after that informational hearing, and you guys were worried. I mean, even members of the media were worried if they can replay the hearing that occurred. And so you've heard that you guys were fine. You came here. We're your representative. This is your legislature, and so you had every right to provide those input and testimony during that hearing. Okay, so it wasn't a waste of your time. We want to make sure that, and that it's part of the record, and that we would move this forward.
Thank you, Senator.
Okay, so if there's no other questions or anything else anyone wants to add, because you already added it on the first hearing, then we'll call this hearing that we've had a public hearing, a legal public hearing for Bill 184, and the time now is 5:52, and we're adjourned. Thank you very much.